All right, what's up, guys? So look, back with part two of the 7 steps to being healthy and fit. So yesterday I did step one and I actually gave you a bonus step. So it was like step 1A and step 1B. But if you didn't get those, two options. One, you can go to the YouTube page, it's uploaded on the YouTube page, or you can just go back and look at my IGTV. So depending on where you're looking at it, right? If you're looking on YouTube, it's the previous video. IGTV, if you're on Instagram. So um, and 7 steps to being healthy and fit. And again, they're not necessarily in order of how you need to do them, just 7 different steps that you need to take in order to work towards your health and fitness, right? So step number 2, you want to identify your priorities, okay? You want to prioritize things in your life, in your day, your goals, right? You might want to prioritize those. There's several things you want to prioritize, right? And so in the book, what I go over is I talk about the jar of rocks. And so you might have heard of this before, and there's several people who have done it and done a demonstration. They put a jar of rocks on a table, right? And they put it up there so you guys can see it. Hold on, let me silence this thing. All right. So you might see it or might have seen it before. So here's the deal. You need to figure out what the big rocks are in your life. Like, what are the most important things, those top priorities, those things that you really want to accomplish, like the projects you really want to accomplish, the goals you really want to accomplish. Like I mentioned yesterday, if it's weight loss, 10, 20 pounds, 30 pounds, whatever, right? If it's in your business, in your career, you want to make 100,000 a year, you want to make 10,000 a month, relationship goals, whatever it is, right? What are those most important things, right? It could be, like I said, it could be a project you want to accomplish, time with your loved ones, improving your faith, your education, your finances. It could be working towards a cause, right? But anyway, so you want to remember to put the big rocks first, but if you have to remember, if you don't put the big rocks in first, you'll never get them in, right? So those most important things don't have to be first, right? And so this comes from I think Stephen Covey is originally who kind of put it together. But you start with a jar, like an empty jar, right? And you start filling it with big rocks, okay? And you guys probably heard this, I'm not doing anything special, but there's a jar, right? You start filling it with big rocks. You're dropping the big rocks in, and then you fill it all the way up with big rocks, right? And so is the jar full? And the answer is yes, because you can't fit any more big rocks in it. That jar is completely full. Now you take some smaller rocks, maybe some pebbles, and you begin to pour those in, right? And what happens with the pebbles is they settle and they kind of fall in between the big rocks and they start to fill in those spaces, right? Now you get all the way to the top. Now we ask again, is the jar full? Yes, the jar is full because you can't fit any more pebbles in, right? So he takes it a step further and they go, maybe we take some sand and we pour some sand in to the jar, right? And the sand also does the same thing the pebbles did. It starts to fit and form around the pebbles, fit and form around the big rocks, and starts taking up that space, right? Until eventually, again, the jar is full. You can't put any more sand in it. So maybe now we could end it, but now he takes water and he pours the water in. The water is absorbed into the sand, gets soaked up, and it starts to fill in again those spaces between the sand, between the pebbles, between the big rocks. The spaces start getting filled in, and now the jar, which was previously full with big rocks, which was previously full with pebbles, which is previously full with sand, is now completely full with water as well. Now everything is in there, all the priorities from the top all the way down to the very small, right? So the jar is completely full and you can't fit much more in, right? So now what's the moral to this story? Okay, the moral is many times, like, you think you're done, you think you're full, you think you can't do any more, and we like start to stall our productivity. But there is a lot to be done, or that could be done, if we strategize and prioritize properly, right? If we take those big things, right, and we put them first, we make sure we get all of the big things taken care of. Okay, now then we can take some of the small things. If we were to work the other way around, we fill it up with water, then we drop one of the big things in, the water starts to spill out, right? You can't do it the opposite direction, right? Because if you do it the opposite direction, something's going to get missed. So it's really, really important that you always prioritize whatever it is that you want to do, okay? And this goes with your days, with your weeks, with your years, right? We're talking about working towards a goal. You have to prioritize things in that day. So we would fill our days and weeks. We can fill them with big rocks, right? Or we can let the days get away from us with too many pebbles and too much sand. The things that we're just busy doing and then aren't really getting us the life that we want. Right. So it's important that, again, if we talk about our big rocks are, you know, a project we want to finish, a business we want to start, time with our family, improving our faith, you know, improving our relationships. Those are the important things. And those things need to be addressed every day. Right. So we have those big rocks. Now we can start to fit the pebbles in between those spaces. Right. And then the sand in between the pebbles and the water. You guys get the picture. Right. So the jar of big rocks is like a constant reminder for us to focus on what's really important, okay? So this is in those 7 steps to being healthy and fit. And again, remember, they're not necessarily in order. If we set our goal and we know our why, which is like 1A and 1B, priorities and prioritizing is up there as well. We have to set a priority. And again, this is why they don't really have an order. Like it's not like 1, 2, 3, because having priorities and goals kind of work together. If I set a goal, I may have like a big goal and there's some smaller goals, right? So the big goal is like that big rock, and I have these smaller goals. They work together though, because I need to know why I want to accomplish it. So those 3 things are like 1A, B, and C. They kind of work together. The second thing, like I said, the second step is identifying those top priorities. And so again, this is going to be something that you need to write down, right? You probably are going, like, it's going to be a process. Even the goal setting process, there's a process to that, right? We have to write down our goal. We have to actually, you know, like I said, 5 times it or 5 why it, right? So we know what our goal is. We know what we want to accomplish, and then we're going to work our way down to what the goal really amounts to, like what's really important with the goal, right? Why do we want to accomplish that goal? Why do I want to lose 20 pounds? Why do I want to get a Ferrari? Why do I want that brand new Tesla? Like, why do I want these things? And then again, ask why. Right? And whittle it down until you figure out what the real why is. And now that you know what your real why is, you can start to prioritize things in your life to fit that jar. So the jar, right? The jar is like your goal or like your day, right? And you start to prioritize the things that are important. If I want to, you know, if I want to lose weight, or losing weight is like my focus or one of the things I want to work on, or if I want to improve my relationships, or if I want to improve my faith or my religion, there are things in my day that I need to prioritize that are very important, that I need to make sure I prioritize first before some other things, right? Like, again, going back to diet, if my goal is to lose weight, then what I eat is a priority. It's one of the big rocks, right? It's one of the big rocks. It's one of the things that I need to make sure that I do throughout the day. Like, I'll give you an example. My clients, we make sure we eat breakfast. We eat a breakfast 1 hour at least within that 1 hour window when we wake up, right? It's because a lot of people will not eat breakfast at all, right? They won't eat breakfast. They just get up, have a cup of coffee, and they go about their day, or they have a cup of coffee and some kind of sweet thing like a donut or a bagel or something, right? And we don't get any protein. We don't properly break our fast. We don't have any vegetables. We don't have any like fiber. Like, we're not doing things to set our body up to work properly. And so one of our priorities, right? One of our big rocks is to make sure we eat our breakfast, right? Another one of our big rocks is to make sure that we're drinking enough water, right? And it's going to vary from person to person, right? But I want, at least for my guys, I want you guys to be trying to get a gallon a day. And it seems like a lot until you start getting a gallon a day, and then it goes by pretty easily. But that's one of the big rocks, because water is so important to your body. Okay. Big rocks. Like, I want you to get 10,000 steps. And I mentioned this the other day, getting 10,000 steps for me is important because it takes some intent. It takes some focus. It's important for you to do it. So you have to plan it. You have to get out and do something. You have to be active to make sure you hit it. Big rock, like, I want you to get a certain amount of protein in, because we aren't just losing weight. We want to build muscle as well. So we're trying to get like 0.8 to 1.5, depending on what your real goal is, grams per pound of body fat. Like, we're trying to get, right? we're going to get those big rocks in. We want to make sure we have vegetables with every meal, right? Big rock, like that's something that's super important. Now, other things on that, like, I have guys that love coffee. Can I have coffee? Absolutely, right? That you fit that in there. That's a priority to you. You think that's really important? Cool, put that in there. But that's not more important than breakfast, right? It's a pebble, right? And then they're like, well, I have my cup of coffee. I don't really like it black. Can I have whatever, right? And then that's more like sand, right? Because the actual cup of coffee is probably more important to you than putting a teaspoon of honey in it, right? Because otherwise you'd be like, can I have a teaspoon of honey, right? Just as an example, right? It may be different in your scenario or what your goal, based on what your goal is. But that's kind of like knowing the ins and outs of your goal, just setting a goal, just saying you want to do something and not really clearly defining what or how you're going to get there is kind of setting yourself up for failure, okay? Remember, like, once you have the goal now, see, this is something that if you guys are old enough, you remember this, like the set it and forget it, right? The Ron Popeil, they had like the rotisserie thing, right? You throw the chicken in, you hit the button, you set it and forget it. Like you just, boom, you walk away and it's doing it for you. It's doing everything for you, right? You forget you're even cooking it. When you come back, it's done, right? So when I like to tell my clients, and what I tell people is like, you set your goal and you go through the process of setting your goal. So it's an actual process, like it's a whole thing, right? You set it, you make sure it's right for you. You make sure it's smart, it's specific, it's measurable. And I use 2 A's in mind: specific, measurable. It's aggressive, but attainable, right? It's relevant and it's time sensitive, right? So we set a smart, 2 A's, smart goal for ourselves. And then once that goal is set, we almost forget about it. Like we almost immediately forget about it. I set the goal, go through the process of creating the goal. I set the goal and I forget about it. And what I do is I start to work on a plan. And when I work on that plan, what I'm doing with that plan is creating smaller, like milestones or smaller goals to accomplish. So that, like, again, big rock. That goal is a big rock. Okay. I want to make sure that that goal is important to me. I want to make sure it's in there first. Then I take some smaller goals, like say I want to lose, again, I'm gonna keep using this because this is the people I deal with. I want to lose 20 pounds, okay? And I got 90 days to do it, just as an example. I'm not gonna lose all 20 pounds today. I'm not gonna lose all 20 pounds later. Like I want to lose 20 pounds. I got 90 days to do it. So I'm gonna set smaller, attainable goals, but aggressive, right? Because it's gonna force me to do something. So like in a week, I might want to lose 3 pounds, right? And that's maybe 5 pounds, depending on the person, right? And that's a more aggressive goal, but it's a goal that's attainable and it's something that I can work towards. And that's one of the smaller rocks. That's like one of the pebbles that I can work towards accomplishing on the way to that bigger goal, right? So again, when you're doing this, right, when you're on your 7 steps to being healthy and fit, you're figuring out what you want to do. Like again, 1A is setting your goal. 1B, after that goal is set, right, you want to have your whys. You want to really work out your whys and why you're doing it. And again, you want to at least 5x that why. Like when you ask why and you get an answer back, you want to ask why that answer, right? And then why again and why again. So you really get down to the core of it, so you figure out what it is exactly you want to do. And like I said yesterday, it's actually, most people's why turns out to be a person, right? Like when you really work it down. For me, a lot of my whys, like when you see people post like my why and it's like their kids, or my why and it's like a parent or a loved one, right? They typically work down that way. It typically end up being a why. And you may be your own why, like, but it's a person, it's a personal thing, right? That personal why is what motivates you when you don't feel motivated. It's what gets you out of bed. It's what keeps you up at night, right? So we have to have a goal. We have to have a why. And then once we have that, we need to prioritize our things, right? We need to make sure we get our big rocks in the jar first, right? We fill it up. We fill up the jar with big rocks, and then we backfill it with pebbles, right? Smaller goals, but also things that are aggressive, that force us to do something, to take action, right? Once those smaller goals are in, then we fill it in with sand, right? Again, another smaller, like maybe daily goals, right? These are things that we want to accomplish on a daily basis, or maybe you want to accomplish in parts of the day, right? Like I see my wife actually has a water bottle, right? It's a gallon water bottle, but on it's got times, right? And if you look at like these are smaller goals you want to accomplish throughout the day. So her ultimate goal is to get the gallon of water in a day, but then she has like time goals on this thing. Like it's just marks, right? I need to get it down to this mark by this time. So we got our big rocks, we got our pebbles, we got our sand. And then once we think like, once all the sand is in there, then we just, we fill it up with water. And these are just extra things, right? Things that are important to us, but maybe not as important as the big rocks, not as important as the pebbles, not as important as the sand, but they fill in because they're things that we want to make sure we do, right? They hold some weight for us. Okay. You know what? I said I wasn't going to do this, as I was going to do one step a day, but I'm going to kind of like preview step 3. Because it kind of came a lot, like it kind of piggybacks off of what I just talked about with my wife's water bottle. And I'll go more in depth on it tomorrow and give you a little bit more detail on it. But I tell people, and I do this myself, is you keep a time diary, okay? And this is at the start of your goal, like at the beginning. And I'll tell clients before we even start, like we have our strategy call. I'm like, yes, you want to do it, boom, 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 like perfect. We're going to start on this day. Here's what I want you to do until that day, right? You can get on MyFitnessPal, you're going to track your calories. I don't want you to change anything. I don't want you to do anything different with your diet. I just want you to track your calories for 3 to 5 days, just so we know where you're at, right? We know what you're eating. You didn't make any adjustments. We can see where you're at, right? Just what you would do on a daily basis. And I suggest doing the same thing with your time, okay? Because our number one complaint for everybody, no matter what it is our number one complaint is we just don't have the time. I just don't have the time. And because I don't have the time, I don't have the energy. Like it's always a time thing, right? We're like, oh, well, if I, like we talk about celebrities all the time, right? Or it's easy for them to do because they have so much time, right? Or it's easy to do because they have so much money, and money, my time is money, blah, 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 right? But we all have the same amount of time in a day. So what I ask people to do is to document your time, like literally document your time. Go throughout your day and just keep it like a journal. And again, I only ask you to do this for 3 to 5 days. If you really want to get really serious about it, you do it every day. And we talk about time management and scheduling and blocking. That's like a whole nother thing. But if you kind of do some time management, you wake up, just spent this amount of time doing this. I went and ate breakfast. It took this long. I drove to work. It took this long. I'm at work doing it, like, and just like as detailed as you can get without being crazy about it, as detailed as you can get without being crazy about it, write out your day. Okay. And again, do that for 3 to 5 days. See what your schedule is actually like. See where there are opportunities to work something in. Even if it's like, oh, well, this is Monday, so on Mondays it's like this, but Tuesday is crazy. Cool. Then we make sure that on Monday we get more of what we need on the Monday than on a Tuesday, right? So like when you do that, you actually get to see what it's like. If everything is a blur, right? And we're just looking at everything from 10,000 feet up. Yes, it looks very, very busy. Like it looks like there's too many things going on and I don't have time. But if you back it down, you actually find little pockets of time. Right. And we'll get into one of the other steps now. It's a little bit down the line. We talk about like the rule of 15, the plus 15 rule. OK, and it's just a matter of a plus 15 here and a plus 15 there. And if we can find those 15s, we can find fitness. Right. Because fitness isn't like a thing that we're chasing. Right. It isn't a goal to accomplish. You actually become fitness. Right. It's not like a destination. Right? The way you eat, the way you exercise, the way you carry yourself, the things you do mentally, physically, even emotionally, is a becoming, right? It's not an end. There's no, like, you're going to be trying to stay fit for your entire life, right? If you're like me, you want to try to live as long as you can. Like I enjoy my life. I enjoy being a father. I love being a husband. I love being a brother and a son. And I want to be that and those things for as long as I can. Right. So if I want to be those things for as long as I can, I definitely need to try to stay fit as I can for as long as I can. So fitness is a lifestyle. It's something you become. It's not something you do for a temporary time. So we may be on a program that lasts us 90 days. We may be on a challenge that lasts us 28 days or 60 days or 6 weeks or whatever it is. And that's just because that's the way it's themed. But the goal of any program that I put out, no matter what the time frame on it is for you to take the lessons you learn on that program, in that ebook, on this post, whatever it is, take those lessons that you learn and apply them over the course of your life, right? And I think, if you would ask some of my clients, you would ask some of the people that I've coached, some of the people I work with, some of the people that I'm just around, it's lifestyle, preaching lifestyle all the time. Like I'm talking about things that you do on a daily basis, but things that are sustainable, things that you can do forever. Like there are a lot of ways, there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of like noise out there about things you can do to accomplish goals, right? There's financial things you can do. There are, physical things you do. We're talking about fitness. There's emotional things you can do. But the ones that really make sense are the ones that you could do for a lifetime, the things that you become, right? It's not about the destination, it's who you become on the road to it, right? And I know I'm getting off topic a little bit and we're changing the subject, but sometimes you just got to go with it, right? So again, let me back up and end this thing. I'm at, hold on, let's see how much time we got. Yeah, that's right about, I told my wife I was gonna be 20 minutes, so I'm not gonna let y'all get me in trouble. All right, so look, 1A, set a goal. 1B, right? 1B, after you set a goal, figure out your why, okay? Step 2, right? Step 2, you're going to prioritize things. You're going to get a jar or a piece of paper. You get a piece of paper or you'll get a whiteboard. Like I got whiteboards everywhere. There's a whiteboard right here. There's a whiteboard with a calendar right there. There's another bigger whiteboard above it. And I'm just jotting down things. I have notebooks everywhere. Like I have a notebook. There's a notebook right here. I got a small one that I keep with me in the car. Like I got the app on my phone. Like I'm always taking notes and writing things down because you want to make sure you have an accurate account of things. But here's why I say it. So you write it down, and then you almost like you're writing a paper, right? You get an outline, your major points. These are your big rocks. These are the things that are really, really important to you. And then for each thing, you have like pebbles, smaller rocks that kind of go with it that help you accomplish that thing. And then for each one of the pebbles, there's some other smaller things. This is the sand that help you accomplish those things. And then there's some water, some smaller things, smaller than the sand, which is also smaller than the pebble, which is smaller than the big rock, that help you accomplish the big rock. All these things are working together to get you towards your goal. But if we don't prioritize things, then we get mixed up, right? If we don't prioritize our fitness, we prioritize maybe our wealth, we lose our fitness chasing wealth, we lose our health chasing wealth, right? So make sure, you're not wasting time, right? You're not wasting time chasing the pebbles, right? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I hope you guys got that. All right, so I'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be talking more about we're talking more about that time thing, right? We'll be talking more about keeping a time diary, maybe even some of the apps that I use for that, maybe some note taking, some tips and stuff that you can do for that, and why it's important and what the purpose of it is, right? Where is that going? Why am I just writing down the time that it takes for me to do this and do that? And then how do I take that account of my time and make it most efficient for me? Okay. All right. So I'm gonna hop off here. YouTube guys, I'm gonna hop off here as well. Instagram, love y'all. YouTube, love y'all too. I'm gonna hop off, but remember, prioritize. Big rocks first, pebbles, sand, water. Later.